Hey, it's Patrick Wilson.
Hello, this is Jeff Goldblum.
Hi, this is Alec Baldwin, and you're listening to Marta on the Move.
I'm your host, Marta Mazzoni. Join us as we connect culturally through lifestyle, travel, and entertainment.
Guys, welcome back to Marta on the Move. I have not done an interview in quite a while. I've been doing a lot of just random free solo recordings, but I couldn't wait to bring on my good friend Byron Nash because we had a Facebook memory that popped up about 6 years ago of the first recording I did with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just I wanted to reintroduce everybody to him. Amazing musician, entrepreneur, and fitness coach as well. And I wanted to take this opportunity to revisit our relationship and talk about kind of the power of accountability and having somebody in your corner that shares your same ideals, lifts you up, supports you, and you've totally been that for me. So
Same, thank you.
how you doing today?
I'm well, how are you?
I'm doing good,
Plugging away, chipping away at the day.
We're almost through it. We're almost there to the end of 2020.
Yep.
And that's okay with me.
I want to finish strong,
Yes, we are gonna finish. Look at this.
Yeah.
We're
Sure.
finishing strong. This is totally a reflection of that, I feel like.
Yeah.
Can you tell the listeners kind of from where we were 6 years ago to now, how things have shifted for you, how things have moved?
Whew.
I know.
Well, I guess 6 years ago I had a band that I was in, and that was sort of the focus. And I was working at Harris Grill as a longtime bartender there. So those were my two worlds, like working a ton and playing a lot of shows. And, I don't remember how. I think we met through Harris Grill.
We met when I was on a sales call.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So like back then, like I was just sort of in the grind and hustling and just going, 90 miles an hour every day, all day, every day. And, but enjoying it. Like it was exciting because I felt like things were happening and I was busy and I had things going on. And then, things kind of changed. Like the path changes a little bit and the landscape of your life changes. So, Harris Grill's no longer there. I don't have like a band, but I'm still doing music and I'm still, if anything, I'm probably more involved, but in a different way for myself. Mm-hmm. Back then it was sort of more about the collective band pursuits and things like that and playing shows. So, it's been an interesting journey.
It's been a ride. And then I want to say, was it about a year and a half ago or 2 years that we were like, we should meet for coffee?
I don't think it was as long ago as we think.
It was at least a year because it was pre-COVID.
Yeah. It was definitely a year. And all I remember what stood out was it Ace Hotel? Was that the first time?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, that was this year, by the way.
Was it? No, it wasn't.
Yes, it was. Yeah, it was.
Oh my God, this year feels like
we
like 3 years long.
3 years in 1 year. That was actually this year.
Oh my God.
Because it was cold still. I remember it was really cold.
It was cold.
And you were taking a yoga class, and I was right near my gym. And yeah, that was this year.
Okay. Yeah, I remember you walking in and we were like, hey. And I don't know, you know how you just feel drawn to certain people at certain times of your life? Yeah. I said, let's grab a cup of coffee and just actually have a chat. I think the next time we met for like 10 minutes. And then the next time we met for like 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And it was wonderful. And the great thing that I love about it was just seeing where we were at in our lives. I feel like we had a very parallel type of journey at that point. Self-discovery. Would you say the same?
Yeah. And I also think we were searching for some other things from people that are around us, which is what, at that time I was I needed people that were on the same page in their own lives. And I didn't have that, and I was struggling. So I remember making a conscious effort like last year. It really started with like podcasts, like listening to podcasts in the realm of what I'm interested in. And you were sort of the start of me like meeting someone to just talk about that stuff. So that conversation became like a regular thing instead of something that I was like off on an island by myself, not knowing what I'm doing or if I'm even going in the right direction. So it's nice to have someone to bounce that off of, even if you're not going after the same thing. So that was sort of the beginning of me like being on the journey of like kind of redesigning and recreating my circle, even if I didn't see them all the time, so, and I think it picked up more when we were in lockdown and we started doing the Zoom talks,
Yep.
And then once we were able to like go on walks and it was safe, so that's what kicked it up.
So that's what I want to touch on right now. And essentially this is tips. This is like, if you're feeling this essentially, because we were both feeling this way, if you're out there and you're listening to this and you're feeling that, we started doing these walks that were so just great, like just this great brainstorming of being like, where you're at, well, here's what's going on with me, and here's what's going on with you, and just bouncing ideas off each other. And I think that's why I feel like we have been hanging out for longer than just this year, because there's so much that we packed in.
There's a lot of depth to it, so even if it's not long, there's a lot more weight to the things that we were talking about. That I think that was one of the takeaways from the whole COVID and lockdown thing. You don't realize that you don't get to have these deep conversations when you're in a restaurant or at a bar or at a party. We're all talking and we know each other, but it's kind of on this upper layer, so when you make it a concentrated effort to say, let's talk about some real stuff, let me listen. And you know what I mean? Like really actively listen, because someone might just say something like, oh, shoot, that's what I need to do. And I think it's really hard when we're in the hustle and bustle to take that all in. We kind of lost some of that. So that helped kind of build that element up with listening and being able to share. So
I think that is another aspect of this year that has been really important, especially for people like you and me who are hustlers, like in the truest sense of the word. And I don't think that's a bad connotation. It's just, we always have ideas. We always, like, oh, what can I do now? Oh my God. We get excited about that.
All the things.
I want to do all the things. I want multiplicity. I want 8 of me. Maybe not. That would be chaotic. But this year really was a pause to be able to slow down and reevaluate what was important to us, who was important to us, who we chose to spend time with was a big one. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to record this podcast and touch back on that, is finding those people that lift you up and support you. And, they don't have to be positive all the time. It's constructive criticism. And like, to your point, finding people that listen. And also that you can listen to is very important. I think that has been a huge impact. I know, at least on me.
I feel the same way, because some of those things I maybe wouldn't have shared with other people because of the judgment that you might, think is going to be there. And I like that we had this sort of trust realm where it doesn't matter what the idea is. What is it? Like, put it out there, and feeling safe that you can say it, no matter how ridiculous it might feel to us or we think it sounds out loud, knowing that you can say that to someone and you can just say it. I think that's huge, because a lot of times we don't want to say it out loud. We don't want to share it out loud. Then there's the whole writing things down. But if you have a person or two where you can kind of go back and forth with those ideas, it kind of brings them to life a little more, because you're not as afraid to take the chance on it, because you have like a little cheerleader in your corner saying, well, all right, what are you going to do to make it happen now? And like that accountability,
That's exactly what it's like. Okay, you have this. What now? What are you going to do it or what?
Yeah.
And that's so true. I was thinking about that. I was taking a walk the other day, thinking about how you manifest, like everybody has ideas.
Yeah.
We're humans, but until you speak them, you have to condense them into a thought that makes sense.
Yeah.
And speak it aloud. It's kind of like waking up from a dream and trying to describe your dream to somebody. It's really hard.
Yeah.
So being able to speak it out loud gives it power a little bit, and it gives you the power to run with it if you want to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's been a big deal for me because the pause, as we like to call it, on one hand, it's like great. It's like, oh, I got to get some of my life back. I got to focus on myself. I got to clean my house to the next level, but then there's like, oh God, what's next? And it's funny because a lot of people say, well, there's uncertainty. And I've been thinking about that, but really we've always had uncertainty. Like that's never going away. COVID is not the first time that there's been uncertainty about us not knowing what's next. I've never known what's next, ever. Anything that I've accomplished or failed at, I didn't know that was coming. Even if I was actively going after it, I didn't actually know. I didn't know that this thing was going to happen. I was just kind of going with the movement.
And it never goes the way you think it's going to go.
Never,
ever goes the way you think it's going to go. It's a journey, right? I mean, I think we talked about this when we were on our walk. One of our walks, it was like, if you look back on what you tried to do 10 years ago, that's just completely shifted to who you are now.
Yeah.
It's pretty incredible.
Yeah. And so that gives me a little comfort in not being as afraid of what's next. I do get a little paranoia. There's, every now and again, you got to make sure you don't take in too much news or bad conversations.
Yeah.
But, I think not just like really knowing what I am doing next, even though I'm doing stuff, mostly because I'm transitioning out of service industry in the format that I was in it. And because I've done it so long, I think that's what makes me feel like there's uncertainty, but I'm not afraid of it as much as I just like honestly don't know. So I'm just like, okay, what can I do? It's a fitness. All right, let me try to have 6 steady clients, or 8 steady clients with a fluctuation of 3 that might cancel or may not stay with it or whatever, but at least I'm moving in that direction, and that will put me in a new realm that might open another door instead of just kind of waiting to see what happens to the service industry, which has been impacted so heavily by all this.
So I want to touch on 2 things before this podcast ends. Number one, I wanted to basically talk about you don't have to be who this relates to what we were just talking about. You don't have to put yourself in a box of what you originally sought out to do. And then right now I wanted to give some tips to the people out there that are looking for accountability people.
Yeah.
And how they can find them. I know one of my tips that I have said, if you don't have people in your life like that, you can find somebody that's not in your life. You can go to a podcast, an inspirational podcast. You can see a therapist. You can read a book, an autobiography by somebody that is going through what you're going through. So the possibilities are out there.
Yeah.
But do you have any tips on like keeping with an accountability partner or finding one, or even removing, I hate to say it, limiting your time with other people is depending on who they are?
I think it's important to assess your life, like maybe weekly. We have like our short-term goals and everything. I think you want to look at it like each week I try to look at what I did or didn't do and how I can improve. But then think about like when you talk about your new ideas or you talk about things that you're happy about or whatever, how people respond to it. So that's usually like a good indicator, or if you feel like you can't tell them, that there's your answer.
Yep.
So, when I originally was feeling like, man, I need to be around more people. And it wasn't that I didn't have I didn't have enough for the level I needed to like make the switch. And that's where the podcast, came in. I felt like those became my people because I was listening to those conversations regularly. The same thoughts and themes were always being talked about, whether it's you're the 5% of the people or you're the percentage of the 5 people that you hang around with. About goals and all these things. So I just started using those as my accountability people until I found people that thought that way. And it might only be like 2.
Yeah.
It's not like you're going to
have to be a commune of people.
Yeah. it has to be consistent though. And I
Yes.
think also in finding that, you have to make sure that you're a good one too. Instead of just
Yeah.
finding somebody who's going to help support your thing, you have to be just as supportive and willing to be there for them in those times of need when they're maybe doubting themselves really hard and there's a dip. We might be winning, we might be losing. So I think that's key. And then really think about what do you want? Like what do you mean by accountability partner? Do you want someone to go on walks to just listen to your stuff? Or do you want someone who's like, what are you trying to do? Oh, I think you can do this. You know what? I looked up this book. Here's the thing I think that you can do. That's the level I want it on, where there's actual movement happening.
Yes.
I don't particularly need someone to just listen to my problems. That's not.
That's a therapist.
Like that's not. Some people will confuse that.
I know.
I think it's about listening to the things that aren't your problems, so you can change what your problems are. If you have this idea about this, someone wants to hear what it is. You just might say something a certain way, and they're like, oh, you know what do you think about this? And you can't do that if people aren't listening. You can't do that just by yourself. So I think it's like
you
an
have to
active
bounce
thing.
the ball.
Yeah, and when you were like, hey, let's meet for coffee, one of the first things we did was we wrote the list of what we thought of each other.
Thank you
remember that?
thank you for participating in my crazy idea.
Yeah, and that really opened my eyes to because you don't know how people see you, because we put it on ourselves, how we see ourselves or how we think people see. So someone to actually handwrite it that I didn't really hang out with frequently, was sort of an eye opener to, okay, like this is the level of what I want to have for the accountability friend and what I want to be to someone else. So I really think it's like kind of checking yourself first, seeing what you want and what you can give, like it's got to be pretty even and balanced.
It has to be pretty even. I definitely agree with that. I for people that don't know what that is, I showed up to a journal to the Ace Hotel and some papers and pens, and I asked Byron to participate in a game, and we had to describe in one word lists of things we thought of when we thought of the other person. And it's awesome. I mean, I still have my list and I look at it whenever I feel like, feeling down or just uninspired or kind of kicking myself. I'm like, someone thought of this about me. And that's really important to get out of your heads, because the perspective of other people is just completely different than the way you see yourself.
Yeah.
And I was going to entitle this podcast The Power of Accountability, and it takes two. But I think part of it might end up being just what I said a little bit beforehand about how you may have started off in something, but you don't have to stay there. People, we shift and we grow. So I would love to touch on both of our kind of journeys just this year. I mean, they've been in the past. I know for you. So for those that don't know, Byron and I are both on kind of a wellness journey. And for me, that's been 20 years in the making, but didn't infuse it into my podcast at all. And this year just kind of woke me up to transitions and wellness and wanting to help people and help myself. So it's it started with me and taking care of myself. And now it's what can I do for other people? How do I put it out there? Yeah. So for you, what has your journey been like? I know you're a fitness coach now. You're working on some certifications. And I know that comes with a lot of backlash from outside perspectives of what are people going to think? Marta does travel and entertainment and stuff like that. Who is she to talk about this? And a lot of it's in our heads.
Yeah. It's almost all in our heads.
Yeah.
We're the biggest speed bump and obstacle, and that's where having that accountability friend to kind of help you get over that when it gets in the way is really important. But for me, I was already doing CrossFit for the last 6-7 years, and sort of a up and down journey, and then last year my coaches wanted me to train to become a coach. I really wasn't feeling it. It didn't seem like something I thought I'd be good at or was interested in. I felt like I didn't know enough to do it, when I'm
of course
kind of getting in my own way. Fast forward, took the class, passed, people were already asking me to help train them before I was certified. So there was that. And then, it kind of picked up last year, just word of mouth. And then I started training people. And then I became more serious about the coaching element because I felt like people were relying on me for the life lesson stuff through fitness, not necessarily like, okay, you're doing the push press, you're doing burpees, but really the internal dialogue with yourself to be able to do it. And so I wanted to tie those things together. And that's sort of what's opened the door to these other things of, oh, maybe I can do this. I didn't know that I would like it. I didn't know that I would become halfway good at it, And I think that's another thing of looking back and saying, oh, bartending plays a huge role in this because I met so many people. I knew how to talk to so many people and kind of I had to get to where they were very quickly. And everyone's at a different fitness level. And I want them to feel comfortable about where they're at and where they're trying to go. So it's become this thing that I like really enjoy right now. I'm just kind of riding with that. And I feel like it keeps me aligned with it because
Yes.
I don't believe in like a fitness coach who's not in shape.
So
That bothers me.
We had a whole walk talking about that of how, when I became a yoga teacher, I didn't do it to teach. I did it to enhance my practice and work my body and my mind. And these things that you're passionate about, you're going to practice them because they're your first.
Yeah.
You're doing it for you. So you might be the teacher, but really you're the student. It's only when you actually go to teach someone else that you can really learn yourself about stuff like that. And you're going to keep it for however long. Like I know for me, wellness is something that I'm going to probably keep for a long time because I have been in pain and I don't want to be that in pain again.
Yeah.
That's never going away. So it's always going to be a passion, and whatever you're passionate about, that's what you're going to speak to and talk about and put out there.
I also think if you're like researching something to teach somebody else and then you're talking about it and explaining it, you're just learning again and you're like forever a student. And that kind of excites me because it makes me feel like you never really get to the mountaintop, and I'm okay with that because it's different. It's mini mountaintops. It's not like, all right, now we're here and that's just what it is. Now what? No, you're always learning. And
Always.
I like that, like I like that a lot. And I think that's been sort of like the lesson of my life. And I try to share that in whether it's just like an accountability friend. Like I have a buddy that comes over every Monday. We either play music or we just talk. Like it just depends on how we're feeling, or we do both, but it's like a check-in, like, hey, how was your week? How are you feeling? Like, how are your goals going? Or like, how's your body? Are you stressed out from all this working? Like, whatever it is. And I think if we're living that way ourselves, it makes it much easier to teach other people to kind of make that like a part of their lives. Because I think that people think fitness is like separate. It's like, oh, I have to work out. Oh, do you know what I mean? And like, It's not like you have to ingrain it into your life.
Oh, it's a whole. I mean, it's a whole package. It's not about. It's how it directly affects your mind.
Everything.
It's everything. It's everything.
Yeah.
Well, this was lovely. I just wanted to do a check-in and like, I don't know, inspire some people to get out there and go for your dreams. You don't have, number one, you don't have to be like what you started off to be, and don't care about what other people think. And number two, find an accountability person.
Even if it's
someone that uplifts you. Just one person.
Yeah.
Is all it takes. That's wonderful.
Awesome.
Yay.
Thank you.
Thank you. And everybody, you can find Byron Nash at byronnash.com. Is it byronnash.com or byronnash.music.com?
Byronnash.com.
byronnash.com. You should totally book him for your next gig because he's an amazing musician. But reach out to him if you have any questions for fitness or anything like that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
You too. I'll talk to you soon. Move the needle.
Move that needle, man. Get it.
See ya.
See you.
Bye-bye.
Hi, guys. I hope you enjoyed this podcast with my great friend Byron Nash talking about accountability and the power of your ideas to manifest your ideas. My new idea that I created is something called 3 to Be Me, a guided journey of self-discovery through total body connection. It's a 3-week course that launches in this January 10th, 2021, and it's perfect for anybody that wants to gain clarity, focus, get control of their cravings, have better sleep, get more in depth and deeper into their intuition, and just needs a kickstart or a reset. I would love to be your accountability partner for this. I'm actually personally taking part in the very first launch, the beta launch on January 10th. So there'll be live demos and workshops from me. You can sign up or find more information at 3tobemejourney.com, or you can send me an email at martaonthemovepodcast@gmail.com. I hope you guys join me in this. It's something I have been doing for myself for 4 years and just decided to bring it out into the public. Will help with wellness and self-discovery and getting to know who you are right now. Have a wonderful day. Keep it moving, everybody.